Okay, so we are almost at the end of this great text. Of course, last week we could not meet. I had a little bit of a health issue, so we could not have the class. So we have seen 55 shlokas. What remains is about 23 shlokas. 78 shlokas are there in chapter 18. Just to recollect, the first 12 shlokas were actually, Arjuna asked this question, should I do Tyaga or should I do, sannyasa, kind of a question that he asked, and then Krishna clarified once again that you cannot give up karma, but you have to give up karma pala. So the Tyaga is for the karma pala. Tyaga is not for, sannyasa is not giving up work. Sannyasa is, what he really meant was karma pala tyaga. And that was what was the first 12 shlokas. Then shlokas 13 to 18, he spoke about how is the work organized. The most important reference there is Daivam cha atra panchamam. There is a fifth element in everything that we do in our work. He described 4 elements, karta, and then cheshta, karana, right, adhisthana. These 4 he said, but then he finally ended up by saying Daivam cha atra panchamam. I think that's the most important message. He really said, understand work. Work is not just what you do, or if you think you have the right instruments, you have the right platform on which you can exhibit your work, and you have the right processes in place. He says you are 80% complete. Daivam cha atra panchamam. So that's the most important thing that he spoke about. Then 19th shloka to 40th shloka, he brought these 7 different types of the triguna. He talked about karma, he talked about agent, he talked about sukha, he talked about dhriti, he talked about buddhi. So he showed how everything that we do in our life has this 3-part classification. Everything that we do in life can be measured through this lens of sattva, rajas and tamas. And he said that only to go ahead with the next 8 shlokas, 41 to 48, where he introduced the varnas. And his treatment of varnas directly comes out of the preceding discussion of sattva, rajas and tamas. So he says the varna that each one of us, the color that we all have, each one of us have our own shade of this RGB. The color that we have is a function of a certain combination of sattva, rajas and tamas. And he went on to say, aligned to that, you do what your nature is, you are likely to do probably the best in your life. So that's what he brought about. And then this very famous shloka in which he said, Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. It's a very, very important shloka. He actually gave us a way to handle everything that comes out of work by that single shloka. Anyway, we'll touch upon it a little bit today. And then he got into a couple of shlokas on meditation, which was discussed in great detail in chapter 6. And from there he moved on to today. What we will see is he gets into devotion and divine grace. So the point is, if you look at this whole flow in this chapter 18, after all chapter 18 is again a summary. So there is a very sound logic. It's a beautiful logic that I see. Ramatirtha, who was a great, he was as powerful as Swami Vivekananda. 1928 to 1933, he was a professor of mathematics in University of Lahore, and then he gave up and became a sannyasin. He also traveled to the US. His entire lectures are available in 7 volumes. It's like, it will pierce you like anything. His lectures are so powerful. So he has 7 volumes called In the Wood of God Realization. All his collected lectures are available in 7 volumes. I remember one lecture which would very nicely, try to justify or show how chapter 18 is flowing. In one lecture, I remembered it, so I have also noted on last time also. I think I spoke about it in my detailed interaction. He narrated something very interesting. This is the power of Ramatirtha. Look at what he is saying. He is saying, look at a river. He traces a river. He says, Himalayan, moment you say river in this country, the best example is the Himalayan region and the great rivers, they are coming out of it. So he takes that example and then he says, look at this sojourn of the river. That lecture talked only about that. What is he saying? He says, first of all, where does the river start? The river starts in the snow-clad mountains. It's not a river yet. It's all in the peak of the highest ranges. It's all snow. No life, not a grass, nothing. It's all a white sheet of ice, if you were to call it. So no life, nothing, sheets of snow, sun is shining absolutely pure. That is the purest form. Shining like a crystal. No life, no activity, nothing. That is stage 1 of a river. He talks about 4 stages of a river. So I think we must look at that. So that is stage 1. Look at the stage 2. By the action of the sun, by the grace of this heat of the sun, the snow starts melting. Correct? When the snow starts melting, a rivulet is formed. And you just go and see, Talakaveri, you go to Nashik and see Godavari. Godavari will be like a small little gutter. The origin is like that. You go to Talakaveri, it will be a very, very small little, it's like you cut a small gutter out of your house, water to flow out, that's all. That is how the river's second stage is. When the snow melts and it becomes a little water, it forms a small little rivulet. That's how all rivers are. It's a thin line. Talakaveri takes 7 kilometers before it surfaces as real Kaveri, Bhagamandala. Until then you will not really find it. And same is true of Godavari. So it is narrow, it is curvy, it's not much energy, but there is action. Definitely action, but you can't claim energy in that stage of the river. It's all thin, narrow stream, small little thing running, right? Very limited impact, not much action, little action. This is stage 2 of a river. Okay? Now let's see, now the river comes to the plains. That is where you really start seeing the power of the river. It gets muddy, it gets wide. There is enormous force that it has brought. There is enormous life. It creates life. Gangetic plain, some 1,500 kilometers, life is made. Tons and tons of, Krishi Karya is happening, the entire food is supplied from there. So the third stage of the river is it comes down, river becomes very big, it changes color, it's very muddy. Here it is crystal clear. Once it is in action, it gets muddy. It gets very muddy, takes different color, and then it generates a variety of life. What was lifeless, actionless, as a snow in the peak, which melted into a rivulet, he is the same Bhakti now, he is the root cause of lives. Varieties of aquatic lives, lives in the surrounding, life, your lives, my lives, everything is actually created by that. So that's the third stage. River is put to a lot of use. In Brahmaputra they actually run ships. And if you go to Arunachal Pradesh, they talk about coast to coast. 8 kilometers is the breadth of the river. And there are islands in between. And when BPCL built a refinery in Assam, which is the highest refinery in India, they actually carried 18 meters is something like 18-story building. Because 3 meters is 10 feet. 18 meters of the whole thing, they actually in situ they took it and carried it through Brahmaputra to that place. And from there 10 kilometers they have to go to the refinery. They actually built 4 bridges. The project was delayed by 4 years because otherwise this cannot go, the trailer cannot go. But the river could do that. It could bring it almost near the point. That's the might of the river that we are talking about. So that is third stage. Now the question that we need to ask, is what is the ultimate destination of the river. All that is okay, but then the ultimate destination of the river, in fact, poets have very vividly described. Poets are saying rivers are ceaselessly running because it wants to meet the other half and it wants to merge into the ocean. That's what in chapter 2 in Bhagavad Gita he said, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudram pravishanti apaha yadvat. Just like the mightiest rivers in the world will just empty into the ocean will not even shake. Its height will not even increase by half an inch. There he described that to describe what should be the, akamakami. How do you actually evolve in life? For that he brought that example. But the fact is, the river, right? The ultimate destination of the river is the ocean. And because the river, poets have described it so well, because the river is so genuine that the Samudra Raja said, I'll come 10 kilometers in, that is called backwaters. It says, I'll come and receive you. That's what it is. Just go and see the backwaters of every river, you will be humbled. In fact, I had a magical experience when I saw Godavari in Nashik. 15 days later, I happened to be in Rajamundry. I was stunned. What I saw as nothing humbled me when I went to Rajamundry because the bridge was a kilometer long. That's where the river actually ends. Now, Sri Ramatirtha describes this. I mean, this is a very natural phenomenon that we are seeing. He describes this and he says, do you know what you have to infer from that? He says, this river yet to be formed and just sheets of snow in the highest peak of, it's called Karana Sharira. He actually links the greatest life truth. That's the power of Ramatirtha. In one lecture, he will be able to link the greatest truths just like that. So he says that stage 1 of the river is actually Karana Sharira. There is a causal body. There is a grace of the Lord which melted it. Then it became a Sukshma Sharira. That's why it's a rivulet. It's a thin stream which is flowing. It doesn't have energy. It's like, it's still not active. The child for 18 months is like that. It doesn't know the world. Hand will go in one direction, eye will go in another direction. It has not engaged with this dirty world yet. That's why. Just as the river is all tiny, small, clean, still clean, rivulet, he calls it as Sukshma Sharira. Once you come to the plains, that is Stula Sharira. It has all its might, it gets into the world of Vyavahara. So in order to get into the world of Vyavahara, the Karana Sharira must be equipped with Sukshma Sharira, which is dormant. It is potential energy. It is still not kinetic energy. It is still potential energy. And then you need the Stula Sharira, which is the Pancha, the Bahishkaranas, the Jnanendriyas, Karma, all these frills that we have. These are all called the Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. Then you get into the world of Vyavahara. Then he asks, then what is our goal now? He says, go back to the river and see. What is our goal now? Our goal is to merge. That is what the river is telling us. The river is telling us, you from Karana Sharira, you become a Sukshma Sharira, you become a Stula Sharira, but your ultimate goal is to merge. To merge with that one. But that is exactly the order in which chapter 18 is going. He talked about the world of Vyavahara, all karma and all that. He talked about all the trigunas which are all part of the Sukshma Sharira and so on. And now Sri Krishna is going to take us to that last part. He said, why are we doing all this? We are doing all this because, we have to think about it. If you ask what is the goal in our life? What is the goal in our life? I mean, we can say, I want to earn money, I want to have a good house, I want to have a comfortable living, I want to have security for living. These are all subordinate goals. That is not what we are working. That is not what we are interested in. What we are interested in is we want to be very peaceful. We want to revel in that sense of fulfillment. Samriddhi. We want Samriddhi and Shanti. We only thought Shanti and Samriddhi comes by a good job. This is it's a surrogate goal. We replace the main goal with some other goal. We made a simple assumption, X is equal to Y. That's all we did. Why do you work? If you search this question deeply, why do you work? Why do you want security? I think finally we'll tell that answer. I mean, we have to ask this question several times to us. If you ask this question several times to us, finally we will say that. No. What I actually meant was I want to have the sense of fullness. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. Samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat. Just like the river, when it pours into the mightiest river can pour into the ocean, ocean is without any chanchala. That state I want. Now I thought by having a job and education and a car and whatever, we will get. That is the assumption. I think we need to not just settle with that assumption. I mean, while that they are all called intermediate goals. What is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is I want to be unshaken. I don't want small things in life to bother me. By getting more salary, there is no guarantee this will happen. That's what when Buddha was asked, that's what he said. He said, Yedi ishta jananam viyogaha na bhavet. People I love the most will not be separated. Give me the guarantee. People ask, why do you want to give the kingdom and go? He said, I want 2 guarantees. Yedi janma mrityu jara vyadi, those things don't happen. Can you guarantee that? Number 2, ishta jananam viyogaha. People who I love the most should not be separated from me. Can you guarantee that? If you can't guarantee that, he says this is not interesting to me. I mean, he had that much of vairagya and wisdom to say that we understand it conceptually. We are not able to go beyond that. But the fact remains, ultimately, we want to say that I want that peace. I want that fullness. Now, that fullness is nothing but identifying ourselves with that larger principle. That is why in Svetashwara Upanishad it says, Vayam sarve amartya purushaha. We are all children of immortality. Discovering that truth, discovering the sense through experience, not by knowledge. Knowledge is easy. You can read all Upanishads, we can memorize it, that's the end of the story. That's the knowledge. We are saying by experience, through anubhava. So that is what is very, very important. So all the work that we are doing, if it is not taking me there, that's why, at the end of the day, with a lot of money, the choice we can make is when we can die in a cart made of gold. 24 karat gold you can't make, so may say 22 karat gold. Because 24 pure items are of no use. Purusha is of no use. You need Prakriti for Vyavahara. So in the same way, pure gold you can't do anything. Add some copper. So maybe 22 karat gold you can breathe your last. That much this money can help us. And the power can help us when you breathe last, 100 people can be around you, or 1,000 people can be around you, or after you breathe the last, people can fight on your body. All those are possible. The breathing last is the same. So I think that is what we are interested. We are saying, so if you more think about it, while by no imagination I am saying we are going to give up the job. I am not saying that. I am only saying you cannot replace that goal with this goal and be satisfied. While you pursue this goal, you must constantly remember the goal was that. For the moment I have shifted the goal, so I create that gap with me that gives me the basis for inquiry. That gives me the basis to find out who I am and what is that I should do. So if you read our Vedantic literature, that talks about this merger. Just like Ramatirtha says, the river took its birth not to stay alone somewhere, it wanted to get merged, finally. Sindhu Saridvallabham is what, in Bhakti's definition, there are 5 examples. Ankolakam Nijabija Santatihi, Ayaskantopalam Suchika, Sadvim Naija Vibhum, Lata Kshitirugam, Sindhu Saridvallabham. 5 examples Adi Shankara gives in Shivananda Lahiri by definition of Bhakti. The last definition he said is Sindhuhu Saridvallabham. The river says, my husband is the, it's a very figurative usage. River says, my husband is the ocean, I should ceaselessly run and merge with him. It is, the bhava there is merging with that larger principle. That's where Krishna is taking us. These are the closing shlokas in chapter 18. So he talked about Sukshma, he talked about karma, the activity. We are in the plains. Now we have to approach the backwaters, is what is very, very important. And that is what these shlokas are all about. This is one way. There is another way to understand all these thoughts which we find in Bhagavad Gita. Just let's take another parable. Leave the parable of the river. Let's take another parable. See, if you want to sow some seeds and reap the benefits out of it, it's not just, the process is not as good as just bring some seeds and then throw it on some ground and something happens. It is not that. There is a very structured process. So look at that parable. Step one is the ground must be prepared. You can't just, in fact, Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa was asked the question, Vivekananda was asked the same question. Ramakrishna Paramahansa was asked by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar when he went to his house. He asked the question, why is, in a different way I am saying, the conversation is very cryptic. He asked, why is God so cruel? He created some people poor, He created some people rich, He also inflicted the poor with a lot of diseases. You have all kinds of combinations. You have people who go scot-free and then make all kinds of mischief, they are very wealthy. And I am expanding that cryptic idea for the purpose of understanding. That's the question, for which Ramakrishna Paramahansa gave a very cryptic answer, which required a lot of thinking. He said, I just like that did not come and see you. I did not come and see Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar just for the sake of it. And he left it. We have to actually understand that sentence much more deeply. But whereas Vivekananda gave an explanation for that in a different way, let us say. And somebody asked Vivekananda the same question. Vivekananda's answer was, he retorted back, saying, when the heaven opens and pours, heaven does not say this is MLA's plot, this is somebody else's plot, and this is that, and this is that. Heaven will pour. You prepare the ground, you will get, you leave the ground, it will be all weeds. You have to spend money cleaning it. He says, the problem is not with the heavens. The divine grace flows. It is blinds neutral. It flows. So that is what I call as preparing the ground. Right? So the first step to do anything worthwhile is preparing the ground. Sri Krishna talked about Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? This kshetra must be prepared. This kshetra must be properly prepared. That is where the whole idea of, because Karma Yoga will lead to what? Chitta Shuddhi. That is the preparation for any gainful thing to happen in this superordinate goal that we have. So the first step is to prepare the ground. And that is what the whole discussion of Karma Yoga. Then the ground must be fenced. If you prepare the ground and leave it, cattle will eat it away the moment you throw some seeds into it. And that fencing is what chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita is. The achara and vichara are very, very important. The abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihhyate, what does it say? It says, put the fence. Put some effort. Nothing comes without ayasa, there is no payasa. So put that effort, put that serious effort that is required. So that is, you need to really fence, which means that is the tapas. That is the meditation. So many things we talked about. They are all the fencing part. We cannot compete with the animals. We have no business to compete with the animals. We have to evolve to the next higher level. And that is this fencing business. How do we do a little control, sense control? That's why Arjuna asked, he said, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihhyate. So that is the second. Seeds must be sown on the ground. Now that is where we need Ishvara Kripa and Guru Kripa. This journey will be futile otherwise. It will be absolutely futile. We need the grace of the Lord, and the grace of the Lord comes in many ways. The most interesting, most powerful way is a teacher in some form. That is what germinates, that is what seeds this whole journey. So we need Guru Kripa, we need Ishvara Kripa. And that is why he talked about devotion. He talked about how do you get it? You have to, that's why he said, in chapter 7, if you remember, he talked about 4 types of bhaktas. He said, Arti, Arthartha, Jignyasa and Jnani. So it all depends on what you endured for, you will get. He says, Artis, people who are very agitated, want to have a transactional relationship with God. Sort it out, I will sort out something for you. Or, get me a promotion, I will put 2 coconuts or something like that. So we may start like that. For us, God may be a transactional entity, that's alright, but you cannot live your life Janma after Janma only in this transactional business. That means we are refusing to pass out of LKG to UKG. That is the meaning. we refuse to move up in this ladder. It's all Swaprayatna. Swaprayatna comes with more devotion, the grace will come. Because that he said in chapter 9, in so many places, he said, what I will do, you know, think of Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mayarpita Manobuddhi Mameva Yeshyasi Nasamshaya. Chapter 9 is full of saying, how will I pour the grace on you? You show devotion, I will pour the grace. So that is required. Then water must be, you need the water and the manure or whatever. That is what is the Shravana Manana Nididhyasa. I think these satsanga, that's why, you know, Aishankara says, satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktaha, jivan muktihi. So that's what he said. So I think the Shravana Manana Nididhyasa, when the ground is prepared, when there is a Chitta Shuddhi, when we have Achara Vichara which has tied the fence for us, we have a true devotion to the Lord and then get into a serious contemplation, we will catapult. So those are all the ideas that has come in Bhagavad Gita in so many chapters, which are all summarized very, very crisply, because chapter 18 very little scope. That's why you have 2 slokas from meditation, and today we will see some slokas, 3, 4, 5 slokas on the grace, the divinity and the grace and so on. So we will see some of those today. So we have, as I told, we have seen all these so far. The first 12 slokas, which is in the form of a reply, then how work is being performed, the components of work, then the Triguna classification which went up to sloka 39, we saw that. We have seen the guna and the varna, and we have seen the, you know, how the work has to be dedicated, and then we are here today. Up to 56 we saw last class, so we'll start from 57. Actually the whole Gita teaching is over with 66. The Charma shlokas are 65 and 66. It's over. After that, these are only closing formalities. Gita teachings are over with 66. So we will try to close it with 66 today. Next class we will just wind up the balance. There are interesting ideas even there also. But we will try to see 57 to 66 today. This final set of shlokas we will see. So 56 sloka, he says, Sarva karmani api, Sarva karmani api, Sarva karmani api, Sada kurvanaha, Madvyapashrayaha, Mat prasadat avapnoti, Shashwatam padam avyayam. In fact, there are 3-4 shlokas. I just want to little bit talk about where are we now, and then take these shlokas. I thought, let me, right? So we talked about karma pala tyaga in this chapter. We talked about the different aspects of work, Daivam Chatra Panchamam, the importance of Sodharma, the Varna and Sodharma, all those have come. Now, after all these are being discussed, Krishna now takes the discussion further to say what is the relationship between work and devotion. It's all about work. Bhagavad Gita is all about worst thing in our life. That is the only thread in Bhagavad Gita. So the next discussion is what is the relationship between karma and devotion. That in simple, what is the message we are going to see? Since, see, if we are alive, kicking, right? Because in chapter 3 he has said all that. He said there is no state of no work. If you are alive, you are doing some work. That and all he has settled out in chapter 3 itself. So now, since as long as we are alive, we are always in work, then what does it mean? Moment you say work, there are 2 things which can bother us. So that is what he is addressing through these shlokas. In karmani, in work, karmani is the 7th case. In work, which means when it comes to working, see, there are 2 things. You work and start looking at the results. These are the only 2 things we keep doing all the time. We engage in work, and moment the work is over, we start counting the beans and get into trouble. These are the 2 parts. I mean, I simplified the whole thing into issues which are of importance to us. So karmani, or what he say, what should you do in karma while you are engaged in karma? If you read these 5-6 shlokas, the message is Ishwara Arpana Buddhihi. If you can engage work with an Ishwara Arpana Buddhi, That is what he is saying. We will see the merit of what he is saying. So karmani ishwararpana buddhi or bhavana, whatever you want to say. Karma pale. Now the pala is coming. Karma pale prasada buddhi. If we know, this appears to be a simple idea. If only we know that the work, all this he has said in chapter 11, he said, Nimitta matram, chapter 11 he said, in 53rd sloka, I mean one of those 30s, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. He actually showed in his Vishwarupa Darshana, he showed that Bhishma, Drona, everybody was crushed. At that time, the next sloka it says that all what has to be done are all pre-programmed. We are all foolishly thinking we are doing, but we are all acting here. Please act. That is what it is. Ishwararpana buddhi means, I mean, we are an instrument in this karma, and this world of activities is an expression of godliness. If you can understand the multitude of good or bad, everything put together, the multitude of activity you see in this world, ways, moment that idea seizes us very strongly, we will find I am an instrument there. I am playing in that game. And then karmani ishwararpana bhavana or buddhi, karma pale prasada buddhi. That's what will come. Let us see how that will be the message. If you read all these, finally it is sarva karmani api. In all work that we do, sada kurvanaha, when you are doing madvyapashrayah, keep me as the reference frame for you. Keep me at the reference frame for you means that we will do the Ishwara Arpana Buddhi. That Ishwara Arpana Buddhi will not come by memorizing this sentence. To change this orientation to see the world. There are lots of things happen here. This is a great act of the divinity. If we more and more understand that, our role gets very, very, and Vyapashraya is refuge. Actually another correct word is, Vyapashraya is taking refuge. Mad Vyapashraya, you take refuge in me and do. Now, when will we take refuge to take refuge? The four conditions are, first you should believe in the existence of that entity. Otherwise, where is the refuge possible? You believe in the existence of the entity. In his or her words and intentions, ... That's the second part. That is required. Otherwise, this refuge will not happen. Leave everything to him. That is the fourth part, which is an outcome of all that. That is what happens in these two examples. If the child takes refuge in the mother, it recognizes the existence, it believes in this entity called mother, it totally surrenders to it, and you know what is the price that the parents pay? They are now in great pressure. The child is free now. It will run on the road, it will go here, go there. Why? The child says, my remote control is elsewhere now. Implicitly the child knows. That is called taking refuge. The child problem, as long as we say we are solving our problem, we will visit the hospital as often as possible. Simple. You know, it is just beyond a point we can't manage, because the Lord's creation is so complex. You say, I will solve the problem. When the going is good, you will say, I did it. When the going is bad, you say, God is very unfair. That also you throw everything on the other side now. God comes only when failure happens. When you have a serious illness, if you don't take refuge in the doctor, your illness will never be cured. All the four conditions are important. You cannot say, you know, moment you have, that's why Shraddhavan Lavade Jnanam is useful here also. You need Shraddha. This is called Shraddha. Vyapashraya will come only when you have Shraddha. Actually get anything meaningful out of the doctor. At the end of it, Daivam Chatra Pancham will also work. Doctor will put the honest day's work. If the God says time is over, he will have to go. There's nothing to do with the doctor beyond a point. Everything is wired through that. That is the meaning, actually. So practically, he is giving a very practical example, very practical guideline to us. If somebody is responsible, I will jolly well do. I mean, it's very hard to think about this idea, but these examples make us reflect. So that is Mad Vyapashraya. So he says, moment you take refuge in me, it is not bother about safety. So is the patient. He leaves everything to the doctor and the hospital, and they really fight it out. They really do whatever needs to be done, because the entire responsibility is now handed over there. That's what he's saying in the second sentence. Mat prasadat avapnoti. So you take refuge in me, and my grace will flow. My grace will flow, and if the grace flows that the patient has to go, it is actually grace. Don't think death is bad. I mean, we already talked all those in great detail. There is nothing like bad and good in death and all that. Is wrong. Don't jump too much into all that. God has grace, you cannot understand. Don't waste your time trying to understand. This is what we do in life. We want to understand everything that is happening. Why is it happening? You can connect everything and you found the answer. Even a managerial problem you cannot solve. We don't teach an exact solution to any problem in this institute. Okay, it is not possible. We will only say under these conditions, these are possible, and then we take our hands off. Dropping a stone, where you can use Newton's third law and then calculate, when it will fall in nanoseconds, I can tell you. You can't tell what will happen if I, go into the, there is a situation, I handle it in a particular way, what will happen? I can't tell. When world is so complex, why are you doing too much? He is giving a very practical guideline. Become wiser in life. You can become wiser in life when you take your hands off a little bit. I mean, it's a slow process. We should know how to take our hands off and freely engage in activities. If you do it, Shashwat, I am guaranteeing you, you should have faith in me. You should believe in the existence of me. Leave everything to my will. Believe that there is something like divine will which is playing, and I am Nimitta Matram Bhavasavya Sachin. All that we need to understand from this shloka. So that's what he is saying here. This is the Ishvara Arpana Buddhi I talked about. By your mind, give the work to me, not by physical. You can give the work physically. That means I am not going to do any work. Chetasa Mayi Sanyasya. You give up all work mentally. In a mental plane, you say these all belong to the Lord. Is Chetasa Sarva Karmani Mayi Sanyasya Matparaha. Buddhi Yogam Upashritya Machittaha Satatam Bhava. That is the only way you will remember me all the time. Otherwise, this will distract you like anything. That is why, in a very, very dramatic way, Draupadi's, disrobing demonstrated that. This story demonstrated exactly that. Until she was distracted with trying to protect herself, she was in agitation. Moment she said, Chetasa Mayi Sanyasya, moment she took her hands off and said, you will protect me, the protection came. That story, you have to look at the Sukshma only. You can't look at the front end of the story. You have to look at the Sukshma. Sukshma is saying that. That's what he's saying. Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasa. If you can't do it, your mind will be distracted because your ahankara and your mind are now fully engaged because I have to solve the problem. I only know how to solve it. And I start suspecting everything. I start protecting in which we will be in. If you spend all your energy on it, where is time to think about God? So, to think about God is a good shloka I have memorized in Bhagavad Gita. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara is a shloka that I have. What is the practical way to give the time? This is a practical way. The only way you will focus on God is you take focus from something else and find out which is, you do ABC analysis and find out where is all my energy going now and find out how to take it from there and put it here. That is what he is saying here. So, Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha, he says, that is the Buddhi Yoga you have to bring. Buddhi Yogam upashritya machittaha satatam bhava. You will be now fixed on me all the time. This machittaha satatam bhava, in several ways he has said, these three shlokas that I have put below, the second triplet of Bhagavad Gita is only this. Again and again he has said, in particularly chapter 8 and 9. Look at the 7th sloka. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore, at all times, 24/7, sarveshu kaleshu, mam anusmara, keep remembering me. Yudhyacha, fight your life. You fight your life, but remember me. Like the Karaga dancer will do all kinds of juggleries, but the attention is on that part on the head. And these days they tie it and all that, makes it a little easy. But otherwise, while they do anything, their attention is always on the head. They may put a plate, they do all kinds of juggleries. They walk on the plate, tiptoe it, everything. But while they engage in all that, their mind is always, this is what Vidyaranya says in his Panchadashi or somewhere, the shloka is a beautiful shloka. There is one, I don't remember, by heart it is not coming to me. He says, just like the Karaga dancer, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in his parable says, keep one hand onto the pole, don't leave, and then you rotate and do whatever you want to do, you will not fall. The moment you leave it, it will fall. So that is to hold. And Yudhyacha, do. He says, if you do it, because your buddhi is now, you have done the arpana of the buddhi to me. Mayarpita mano buddhi, your manas and buddhi, chetasa and buddhi, both are there in this shloka also. In this 57 shloka, you have chetas in the first line, buddhi in the second line. That's what he said in chapter 8 anyway. Mayarpita mano buddhi, mameva yeshyasi nasamshaya. Don't have an iota of doubt, it will reach me. Take a little time, but it will reach me. Finally, that merger which I talked about will happen. Is what he is saying there. Ananya chintayanto mam yejana paripasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyam. What kind of assurances Krishna is giving? He is asking you, think of me. The more you think of me, the more rewards I am going to give. All that he is said in a very simple sentence. Practically we find it's a lot of thinking that we need to do. It is a certain perspective we have to have in our life. That's the second. The last shloka in chapter 9. Yat karoshi, yad ashnati, yad juhoshi dadasi tat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Do the arpana, all your activities. So he has taken some different examples of work. In other words, he says, do a Ishvara arpana. Life is lot more manageable for you. You try it for yourself. That's what he's saying. You do that. You will find suddenly energy in you, you have inner strength. We all lack inner strength. These are all solutions for inner strength. Outer strength there is enough. You can even have a rod or somebody can hold you, all that is possible. Inner strength nobody can hold you, no rod can be inserted inside. He's talking about inner strength. So that inner strength will come only if we believe in the divine grace. So that's where he is leading us, these shlokas, as we wind up the text. Machchitta has, so these three shlokas. Machchitta has sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi. Atachet. So he says, if you put your mind in me, what will happen? The difficulties that you go through, I will sit in your brain. That he has said in 9th chapter. He has already said that. The difficulty that you go through, I will sit in your mind and I will make it easy for you. So I narrated this story long back. See, something may happen, some family bereavement can happen, so many things can happen. The point is not that. The point is, if you have divinity, divine grace and all that, they think none of this will happen. That is foolish. It's not that. Because they are all kshetra dharma, they are all prarabdha karma which you have to, if you have to fall today and then break your hand, that is prarabdha. You know what is prarabdha? Prarabdha is you set an alarm clock for 5 o'clock. Now today it is electronic, earlier it is key. Let's say I gave the key and set it for 5 o'clock. It will actually blow. It will keep on blowing in the mechanical thing until it unwinds, it will blow. Then it will stop. So prarabdha is, once you have come in here, it has started unwinding. You can't stop it. So what is grace? Divine grace is not avoiding you from all that. I don't think like that. The divine grace is, it will make you go through without agitation, without mental stress. That is the biggest bonus we want in life. That is what we want. I mean, the other thing is also required, but then this is more important. So that is what he says, Sarva Durgani, all obstacles in life, Mat Prasada Tarishyasi, which means you don't avoid. It doesn't mean you avoid, the obstacle will never come to you, that's not the meaning. The meaning is, the grace will take you, you will weather it. God will come and sit in your mind and it will give you that frame of mind to go through the adversities that we had in life. That is the greatest form of expression of divine grace. And then he says, the second sentence, Ata, if you don't believe in all these, if you say all these are, you can keep saying, Ata Chet, if on the other hand, Ahankarat, right? Nashrosesi, you are not willing to listen to me. You don't want to listen to me. On why I will not listen? That's where the Ahankara is playing. See, ego, one of my friend once sent me a mail. Mahadevan, ego means evicting God out. EGO. So he said evicting God out of your system is called ego. I thought that was a nice way of actually saying what an ego is. Anyway, so he says, when you have Ahankara, then you will perish. Nashya, you will perish. He says, choice is yours. That is the greatness of the Indian text. You read Puranas, you read Veda, you read Gita, whatever. You do this. You will never find it. Contrary to saying this Hinduism and this Sanatana Dharma is dogmatic, it is not at all dogmatic. It only says A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Gita is 66 sloka. After 700 slokas, you know what Krishna said finally? 66 sloka means 688 slokas. 680 Yatochasi Tatkuru, something like that is there. I have told whatever I want to say, do what you want to do. That's the greatness of this literature. So it will only say you have to be wiser. If you are not wise, tell that. So we have all kinds of obstacles. Adi Bhautikam, Adhyatmikam. You don't know why you got headache today morning. After you get a headache, the allopathy will act. That allopathy or science cannot answer. After you see the event, I can explain how it happened, and I will try how to sort it out. Sometimes it clicks also. But you can never say, why did I get headache today morning? I have to write an exam and there is a severe headache today morning. This is called Adhyatmikam. Why did somebody get a heart attack at 12:05 on a particular day? Why can't they do it 10 years later or a few years before? Who is going to answer? These are called obstacles. Obstacles are those which are unplanned, undesigned, unexplainable. That's the definition of obstacle. You cannot explain with the best of your science. You can explain after it has happened. How it happened only you can explain. Why you cannot explain? Get a heart attack now. They can say why heart attack came. That is the how part of it. It is not why actually. It is how. So obstacle means that which cannot be explained at all. That's called as obstacle. It can be adhyat, right? These are all the things. Actually your neighbor, I had a neighbor several years back. My daughter was 2 years old. This man was the first floor of my house. Just about my daughter is going to go to sleep, he will put a 2000 watts something. My daughter will jump off the bed. So for 3-4 days I was very, very courteous. Then one day I told him, I don't want to, after all we have to live as neighbors, I'm willing to put up with it. But my daughter cannot put up. So the question is, why is he blowing that music and then spoiling my daughter's music sleep? I have no idea. He could have chosen not to play that music that day. Or the air conditioner did not work on a very hot day. I don't know why. It just collapsed. And then, you know what we say? God is so cruel, everything is not working today, AC is also not working, current is also gone, my milkman did not come. All these are adi, both. Today your paper did not come, your boss asked you to come 1 hour early, the geyser went for a fut, it is minus, it is 5 degrees centigrade in Delhi, right? But if you have the divine grace of the God, you know how to manage it and go. That is what it means. Or Adi Daivikam. There is a tsunami, there is a rain. I don't know. After it has happened, you can do your differential equation and say why it happened and what forces create. All that is possible. Science can only explain after everything has happened. So by definition, obstacles are those which you cannot even explain, leave alone predict. Why it happened. How you can explain, but not why. You need divine grace to take it. That's what he's saying. If you think you will do it, you will just spoil your own mood. You will spill the bad blood elsewhere and then spoil the whole ecosystem, which may can take us out of all this. So that's what he's saying here. Then there are 2 beautiful shlokas. Now before that shloka, I want to tell you a little bit the whole Now let's ask a few questions. The first question we can ask is, which is what Arjuna is trying to do. The whole context for Bhagavad Gita is there. Yes, repeatedly is asking Krishna, can I do Tyaga or Sannyasa? Can I do something or Sannyasa? He was being very smartly changing the vocabulary throughout Bhagavad Gita. The question is, let us take this hypothetical example, because that didn't happen. Fortunately, take that possibility. The possibilities are, first of all, understand Arjuna is a good warrior. Something happened, he is little shaking. That's what chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. He is a good leader, he is a great warrior. He has tons and tons of his character is available to make a sense of what person is standing in front of me. But he is collapsing now. Now because it is collapsing. In fact, all of us have this in our life. When it is very low, we want a lot of sannyasi thinking in our mind. What I mean by sannyasi thinking is we want to be very detached. We want to say, I want to live a very, all that, when we are very low. That is what Arjuna, Matulaha, Swashuraha, Suhridischaiva, Senayo, Rubayorapi, that is the problem. Now the point is, why I am saying all of us have that problem. When the going is very, very bad, sannyasic kind of a thing, very detached, I don't want to, I will be very clean, I will not talk to anybody, I will be very simple, I will withdraw everything to myself. We exhibit. After a few days, we become all right. That's a different issue. Now became a sannyasi. Now, what will happen, because he is a great warrior, these are all the things that will happen. Now, first thing is the Kauravas will rule the roost now. Now they have won the war without the war. The war is, if it is a game, there is a walkover given by the Pandavas. And Pandavas will be just chased away. And Arjuna is very happy to be chased away because he wants to become a sannyasin. So he will get chased away, no problem. I don't know about the other four, let's talk about the Arjuna part only. Now what will happen is, it will be just a matter of time before Arjuna comes with 10 times the vigor. You know why? Because Duryodhana will go and say, he will tell all kinds of things. He will say he is a coward. He will say this fellow is good, not good for fighting. He pretends to be a great warrior. He is a useless fellow. He is a eunuch. Krishna said you are a eunuch. Klaibyam asmaga. He used the word klaibya. Klaibya means eunuch. He says, na etad upapadyate. That's what second sloka in chapter 2. Klaibyam asmagama partha nai etat tayi upapadyate kshutva hrade daurbalyam tyaktva uttishta parantapa is what he said. So good for nothing. See, he couldn't even stand. All this will build pressure. Moment it builds pressure, my nature, that's why all these nature are described in Bhagavad Gita. My nature is to be a warrior. I can be like that for some days. Now I will come with twice the vigor. I will say I will happily die. Or I will finish. I will come with so much of by doing something which is against your nature, you are only postponing the issue. This applies to every one of us. We can only postpone the issue, we will come back with twice the vigor. So, now let me ask, can I become a sannyasi from tomorrow? Forget Arjuna. Let me ask, can I become a sannyasi tomorrow? Instead of solving that complicated problem, I will solve a slightly simpler problem. But I started some 10, 12 years back I started. I vividly remember what will happen. I will fast for a day with great difficulty and take revenge the next day. This is how I... What is it trying to say? Even in such a simple thing I can't this is a stula sharira vishya. Whereas nature is a sukshma sharira vishya. I am now talking about a very simple issue. It's like, now I don't have that urge. I can afford to fast and then nothing happens to me. Because it is a stula sharira sambandha, not a partly sukshma sharira sambandha. No, if I want to, that's why I see some people say I will not eat this, that for 4 or 5 days. During weekdays they say no fat, nothing. One day they go. And pizza, that compensates, better you eat every day little. For such a simple thing we can't do, how am I going to answer that can I become sannyasi? Which is what this man is asking. Let's take another example. A CEO of a very successful company says, I want to become a sannyasi. And I can imagine what will happen. What will happen is, if he becomes a sannyasi and goes to the ashrama, in about 2 months he will become he will take leadership position in the ashrama. Because that is his nature. He will clean up things, he will put an attendance system or something. He will make sure food is served exactly at 8 o'clock, not at 8:01. Latecomers are all ashrama, you will see it. All will happen. So, instead of getting into Paramarthika, I will get into Vyavaharika. Kshaya happens. Unless this material burns out of you, this is what Krishna is telling throughout Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Arjuna, your vasana has to, Kshaya has to, you are a warrior here, do that. You are that's why in chapter 3 he said, Na karmananam anarambhat naishkarmam purusham ashnute. There is a beautiful sloka, 4th sloka in chapter 3. Na karmananam anarambhat naishkarmam purusham ashnute. What he is saying is, work. Only out of work you will get detachment. You cannot leave it halfway and say, I will become sannyasi. It will bother you. Because the vasana is still with you. That he brings with 2 beautiful slokas. How do you conclude that idea which he has talked in great detail? He brought 2 slokas in chapter 18. So he says, Yad ahankaram ashritya na yotsya. I will not fight. Yuddham na karomi. Na yotsya iti manyate. You may think like that. Arjuna, you may think like that. And you are thinking out of ahankara. You are not become very wiser. You have not understood there is this urge for you to the fruit has to ripe. After it ripes, urvarukamiyo bandhanat mrityor mukshiyamamritat, mrityunjaya mantra. The urvaruka fruit must ripe, to me like that. take me out of death like that is that Mahamrutyunjaya mantra. Trayambakam yajamehe sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamayo bandhanat mrityor mukshiya. Ma amritat, not from immortality, from mrita, from death. Take me from death slowly like that. Which means, give me the vasanakshaya. Without vasanakshaya, you can't, CEO will become a, XYZ ashram, they will go Section 25 company, everything will start. That's a very complicated problem, actually. So, yed ahankaram ashritya na yosya iti manyate, you are not understanding, this is nothing but mithya. Mithya esha vyavasayaste, you are doing mithya, you are not doing satya, you are not doing what has to be done, you are doing something which is futile. Because you will not be able to do it. That's what Krishna is saying, this is following from the previous anyway. Mithya esha vyavasaya te, each one of us have this RGB, which is Prakriti. Prakriti Guna Sambhava. In chapter 3, 27 shloka, Guna Guneshu Artante, Iti Matva Mare Dharen, all those shlokas are there. 27 to 32 in chapter 3 discusses this very nicely. And shlokas, chapter 14, last 5 shlokas discusses this idea so well. So he says, this is your Prakriti. Prakriti is Tvam Niyokshati, it will throw you back. If you run back twice the vigor, you will come back. You are not going to leave because you are. So what is the point? This is again a very practical understanding. The point is, our texts are not taking the entire population and lining them into the sannyasi. It says a person who is a trader must be a trader, a person who is a professor must be a professor. We are all at different stages of this vasana. Exhaust it slowly. And then one day you will move. Don't have, that's why Swadharma. Do the Swadharma. Only because of this. Because Prakriti Guna Sambhavaha. So he says, you may think like that, it will not leave you. Swabhava Jena. Ja is Janma. Swabhava, it comes out of Janma. When you are born, you are wired. The key has been given. The Prarabdha is implanted everything into the Karana Sharira, which became a Sukshma Sharira, which became a Stula Sharira and got into activities. Everything are all actually wired in. You are only playing. Actually, if you don't understand it, you will be in complete delusion and you will never progress. If you understand all these, you will know while I am doing it because of something, you will now start looking at and say, let me adjust myself. That thinking will come only when we are. You are tied by your bhava, which comes at your janma. By birth, not by birth certificate, but by birth. By birth means when I am born, I bring RGB with me. That fixes me into a varna. 1 to 48 in this chapter. So he says, Swabhava Jena Kaunteya Nibaddaha Swena Karmana. Your work is tied by your function of Prakriti. That Prakriti came through birth. It's not chromosomal. It cannot be adjusted and modified with DNA. Not possible. Is your disease pattern. These are all Kshetra Dharma. These are all Dharma for the Kshetra. That DNA, biochemistry, all that you can do. This is not biochemistry. This is God chemistry or something. It is it is not under your vasha. It is not under your control. The control is rested with the Prakriti. The control is rested with the Prakriti. If you understand, then you will say, I will worry about the future rather than this is all. The doll is already given the key. Now I am thinking of what key to give. This key you can't take. The doll has to exhaust all of them. Now you can work on the next key. You can look ahead in life. So that's why he says, Kartum nochasi en mohad karishyasi avashopitat. That work you will do, you have no control. So the will versus disposition question he is answering. He says, your will is only for the future. Your current work is disposition, not will. We think like that. They say the current work is disposition, your future, the next key is in your hands. The current key is given and put on the floor. Now it is going to go. Don't waste your time trying to, disturb it. Now you find out how to give the next key. Which means it's a mental problem than worrying about these issues. That wisdom will come only when we get this framework correct. So he brought these 2 shlokas there. Then there is a very nice famous shloka. He says, Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. So there is so much talk about grace and divine grace and all that. Now if we pick that idea very seriously, Then the question is, we have to find out where is the God now. If you want the divine grace, you want to show devotion to God, the question is, which temple should I go? Because a lot of fight in the outside world is only that. Don't go here, this ism is better than that ism. You know, these are all the things you should do. If you do this, you have a passport or a fast track, or this is all is the conversation. They are all actually low level conversations. Because again, that also Krishna has said, Ye etamam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vartante manushya partha sarvashah. He has already said, whatever way you come, I will. Yad ashnati dad dadami. In some chapter 7 there is a shloka, 9 there is a shloka. Whatever you want, the way you ask, I will give. Yo deva, there is one shloka in chapter 9. Whichever God you actually, worship, I express myself through that God and give what you want. All these he has already said. So the question is, where is this God? Now this trained mind will see the God inside. The God particle is in each one of us. That's what this shloka is saying. It is saying, Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. And the hrid is not the heart, it is a notional reference. That notional reference is why you say, when I say I put my hand here, whether I am a Brazilian, whether I am an Indian, I am an American, I am a boy or a girl, I am an old man or a young person. Moment I say I put my hand here. I never put my hand here or on my foot. I always say I. Why? That's where the God is there. Notionally, that is what it means. Why did we naturally do that? That's where the God is. That is that Hridaya. That's why in Vedanta the word Hridaya is used to say your hand will go. Whenever you want to find that real I, the real I, you put your hand here. Very, very casually we do without thinking. So that is that Hridaya, not the pathology, not that physical device called which does the lub-dub. It is not that. This heart is not that heart. The heart is when you put your hand somewhere. That is the position. It's only a reference, notional reference. What he says is it is inside. When Veda has said, look at this Narayana Sukta, it says, Antar Bahicha Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Stitaha. That's what he says. Outside, inside, everywhere I am pervading. Antar Bahischa Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Stitaha. That's what he says in Taittiriya Upanishad. Second chapter starts with this, Satyam Jnanam Anandam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Oshnute Sarvan Kamaan Saha. That's what he says. Second chapter starts. He says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahma is qualified with these. Then he says Yo Veda, understand that Brahman. Where? Nihitam Guhayam. It is in the deepmost cave of yourself. Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. It is in this Vyoma. It is in this universe, this outer universe. So it is both inside, same meaning is coming in Taittiriya Upanishad. He says, Antar Yoveda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman is same as saying, Antar Bahicha Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Stitaha. Then what does he says? Saha Ashnute. Ashnute is eating. Saha Ashnute, so Shnute. Sarvan Kamansa, it is consuming everything. That's what he next sentence says. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Mayaya. Just like, see, there is a complex machine, right? Moment you connect the machine to the electricity, switch on, it works it's a very complicated, it can be a very complicated, sophisticated press. It starts, you will see it all. It starts from here, the papers are moving all over, a plain sheet comes like a bound book. It's actually for a person who doesn't know any engineering, even for me it is Maya only, because I don't understand what it is. It's all Maya Jal. That's the word he uses, Yantra Rudani Maya. Just like there is something, I latch onto the machine. What latches onto the machine? The power. Without the power, there is no Maya there. It is a dull, dead, inert matter. Moment I switch on, something complicated happens and then something comes out of it. In the same way, I am the electricity for you. I am the electricity for you. I energize and you start dancing. Correct? So when the train goes from here to Bangalore to Chennai, the question is whether the engine is running or the petrol is running. Diesel is running. That's the question. Or the electricity is running. Actually, the electricity is the one which blesses. The electricity blesses and then the mechanical components start working, electrical, the motor runs, whatever, and then finally the traction is developed and it runs. So it is foolish to think the engine is running. In common parlance, we will say the engine is running faster. The engine is running faster means there is enough current which is being drawn. Switch off the current, engine will come to a grinding halt. That is what he is saying. So the God is inside. Develop that feeling. Look for that. Ramana Maharishi says, who am I? That thought is exactly that. Slowly we need to develop that thought, then that grace will come from within. It doesn't have to come from outside. But if you locate the God here, the divinity is here, the divine grace will flow from there. Why should I look around? It will glow. Wherever it flows, it will make meaning inside. So that's why he says, Ishwaraha sarva bhutanam hriddese arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani maya. I am the energizer. Recognize me there, then you will recognize it. I mean, this is a very, very deep philosophical thought. If you want extremely deep meaning of that, you have to read what is called Adhyasa Bhasha, which is the preamble for what is called Chatussutri. It's a very complicated psychological piece which explains it in great detail. It's a very deep psychology. But the fact is, there is a God particle inside. And there are different terminologies there. Bahishprajnaha, Antaprajnaha, Prajnaha, Kshetrajnaha. Kshetrajnaha are all part of it. We didn't get into that level of deep understanding, but this is okay for us to, start reflecting on. So he said, then there are a few slokas. He says, the real wisdom that we get in life is to merge and surrender. Take that refuge, which he already said. The real wisdom that we get is that fourth stage of the mighty river, which started like a Sukshma, Karana became Sukshma and Stula, and then finally it merged. So that a few slokas, with that he actually concludes the whole thing. He says, Tameva Sharanam Gacha Sarva Bhavena Bharata Tat Prasadat Param Shantim Stanam Prapsyasi Shashwatam. Therefore, do these two things. What are those two things? As long as we are working, we will karma pale ishwararpana karmani ishwararpana buddhi, karma pale prasada buddhi. If we do it, this is what we will do. We surrender ourselves. Let me tell you, surrender, in common parlance, people think only surrender is a sign of weakness. Actually, you can't surrender that easily. I am telling you, it is very difficult. Surrender is not weakness. Try to surrender your wealth and then let us see. Try to give away 1,000 rupees without any thought. Write a check for 10,000 rupees with no thought and give. You have surrendered an epsilon of yourself. Not easy. Surrender is, if you have to surrender, you have to have a very strong individuality, very strong vyaktitva. So don't think this is, out of helplessness, and it's not that. Surrender means it precedes a great deal of character building and that strength to do it. You cannot surrender anything. In fact, that is our biggest problem. We will surrender anything, not our ego also. Impossible. So this is not a way. Don't understand surrender as a word as weakness. It is the ultimate show of your strength. That is the ultimate show of your strength. If you can surrender, you have reached the pinnacle of your strength. That's not easy. But he says if you can do it, tam eva sharanam gacha, with sarva bhava, your attitude is all about I want to merge. I want to merge with that one. I want to become that one. I want to merge with that one. So sarva bhavena bharata tameva sharanam gacha, that prasada will work now. Tat prasadat, that Bhagavad prasada will lift you to the heights which you were actually wanting to go. You didn't know how to reach there. That's why I started by saying we may earn, we may say I want a car, I want a 50-80 farmhouse, I want this, all that. They are all surrogate goals to a larger goal. That goal you will find here. That is what will happen if we can surrender like that. In fact, that is why the Daivam Chatra Panchamam is saying only that. That's why in our regular things, now whenever we start our rituals, we say Mamopata Samasta Durdakshaya Dwara Narayana Prityartham, Parameshwara Prityartham, something. Why are we saying that? See, we are saying it very mechanically. If we say it with a little bit of engagement of the mind, these are small hooks for you to develop that refuge. develop that surrender buddhi. Arpana buddhi will come only when you say this with a little meaning and understanding this larger picture when we say it. That's why Vishnoha Angriyugalam Smarami. That's how, all Sankalpas will say that. Vishnoha Angriyugalam Smarami. I will remember those lotus feet of Lord Vishnu before I engage into the work. What does it mean? Karmani Ishwara Arpana buddhi. That is why these rituals are meant for it. That's why you say Nirvignena Parisamaptyartam, Ado Vigneshwara Aradhanam Kari. All these we are doing very mechanically. We are only saying that, you show the grace, let this work happen. The work will happen. You show the grace and I genuinely ask for your grace. That's how all these rituals are. But today, we are very mechanically, doing some of these. But that's how it is. See, after saying all these, see what he is saying. Itite jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrishya. Think about it. Etat aseshena. Thoroughly analyze it for yourself. This society is not a dogmatic society. It does not take guns and say, if you don't fall in line, I will poison you and kill you. That's what happened in 2nd century to a great thinker. Because he didn't agree with the Romans. The current thinking, so he was poisoned. That's the level of tolerance in other societies. In the Greek it was like that. We were never like that. With so much he said, finally he says, Vimrishya etat aseshena yata ichasi tata kuru. This is too democratic. This is free society here. This is called free society. This is exactly the free society. I mean, sometimes we use it in a very different, wrong manner, but point is, our entire literature is like this. It will put everything on the table and say, as you sow, you prepare the ground, I will keep pouring the grace. If you don't prepare the ground, I will pour the grace. You want to complain, put the blame on me also, it is all your childishness, please keep doing it. One day you will evolve. It's all self-help. This is a self-service model. It's a complete self-service model. That's how it is. So he says, Itite jnanam akyatam. I have told you this jnana. And why he says guhyat guhyataram? It is not something which is available on a book. It is not something you can pick up from the shelf. It is something which is in the deepermost cavity of each one of us. These can only help us locate it by some indirect means. That's why it is guhyat guhyataram. Guhyatamam you should have even said. You should have put a superlative degree. This is a comparative degree. Guhyatara is, comparative degree. We say tama, it is actually superlative degree in Sanskrit. So he says guhyat guhyataram. Because he is taking 2, he is putting a comparative degree here. Of all the secretive, this is secretier than that. Why? Because it is not available anywhere. It's nowhere. But it is everywhere. It's like that. You have to reflect, you have to think, so the journey is always solo. This is the only journey in which no group study is possible. There is no group work is possible. You cannot piggyback on me. You do the work, I take the credit. None of them is possible here. Each one of, not my well-wishers, not my spouse, not my daughter, not my guru, not my son, nobody. They can all tell me. They can facilitate. I have to do. That's why Shastram Nyapakam, Natu Karakam. Shastra can only remind you. All these texts can only show the picture. All these different stories and this entire beautiful literature of Ashtadasha Mahapuranas, 2 Idihasas, 108 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, all that can only tell you. It can remind you, all these are there. It cannot catapult you into action. That is your own choice. That's why Shastram Nyapakam na Karakam. It cannot do. It can only show it. It can only show you, remind you, give you example. It can facilitate the process. That's why Krishna says, all these wisdom I have told you, you thoroughly analyze. So what is the implication here? The implication here is, this journey is a very individual journey. Unless we do Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasa, unless we do our own reflection, unless we do our own small experiments, you can't take what I say, nor I can take what you say, nor I can take what the greatest Swamiji, for whom I have the greatest respect, says. I cannot take it. I can take it with reference and understand it. That's it. But I have to engage in this act. That's why he says, Vimurshya etat asesham, aseshena, without missing out anything, reflect on this idea. I have told you 100 things. 663 is 15, so we are talking of 684 shlokas, 85 shlokas we have conversed out of the 700. In fact, there are 2 more shlokas which are the Charma shlokas actually. If you have to, say everything in 1 or 2 shlokas, we had that culture. So Krishna has also put 2 shlokas with which he has said all of them into 2 shlokas. They are called Charma shlokas. Finally, Charma shloka is the shloka which is written at the end. So if somebody passes away, they write a Charma shloka. In Kalidasa, there is this story, he told the Charma shloka and he died, and all those stories are there. Charma shloka is written at the end, that's the meaning. And here it is, the 2 shlokas. That's why in Mundakopanishad, look at that statement. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha nacha medeya na bahuna shrutena. This Atma is not obtained by pravachana, by lecturing it 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours and all that. Right? Na medeya, not because you had a great actually buddhi. Actually, this is atindriya. The indriyas cannot help you. Please understand, there are 2 things. One is knowledge, another is experience. If you want knowledge, indriyas are very important. Without buddhi, knowledge is not possible. Knowledge is called buddhi vritti. When it manifests in the buddhi, it is called knowledge. For experience, actually these are not required. Experience is beyond all that. Where do you find it? The simple answer to this is deep sleep is an experience. Absolutely a blissful experience. Nobody on earth say, all of us, for all other things, if you say at 5 o'clock, what did you do? I was in, a commercial street, then I have to ask you and find out what did you do. Because you engaged all your karanas. So I cannot find it out. When you are engaged in karana, each one of us is different. Suppose we say yesterday night between 10 and 11, what did you do? I had a dream. No, I had to find out from you what is the dream. I cannot find out. I don't know by myself. But if you tell me, yesterday night from 11 o'clock to morning 4 o'clock, I had a deep sleep, I will not ask you a single question. And that's true of you also. Because this is experience beyond indriyas. And all of us have the same experience. And what is the experience? I slept very well, I did not know anything. Everything you can tell only in past tense. Why? Why are you not able to recollect the knowledge? Because in deep sleep you switched off the buddhi. Deha is gone, Sukshma Sarira is gone, Stula Sharira is gone, you are alone. And since you are alone, you switched off everything. So, for knowledge you need buddhi. For experience you don't need buddhi. This itself is showing me. And because buddhi was not there, I am not able to recollect the experience. In the wakeful state, I will have experience and knowledge because my buddhi is working. So, actually, that's why he says, Mena Medaya. The experience is not getting out of buddhi. Buddhi is only to express it. To express that in some knowledge, either to yourself, to write it up, or to tell somebody, or to archive it somewhere, only you need. So the Meda is now no use for seeing the Atma. Meda can be used for describing the experience if possible. But unfortunately, when you see the Atma, all these faculties are gone. That's why nobody can explain it. It will be very inconsistent. Because the instrument is not there. It's like switching off the camera and doing something in the chamber. And then switching on the camera. How can you explain what happened when the camera was switched off? You can make some wild guesses, and looking at what is in the room, you can start guessing something. That's what. So that's why na medaya, na bahuna shrutena. That's what Mundakopanishad says. These are all the last few shlokas in Mundakopanishad. It says, not this Atma cannot be known by talking about it any number of times, or using your beautiful brain and the best of its abilities and so on, not by hearing also. Because this experience is atindriya. That's why he says, Vimurshya etat aseshana, but this can help. This can help the process, but the final experience, this cannot help. That happens in spite of, these are all not required to do it. So that is why he says, Vimurshya etat aseshana, you thoroughly reflect, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa, get yourself convinced and walk into that stage. You will have experience for which you need none of these. Indriyas are not required, Manas is not required, Buddhi is not required, Ahankara is not required, nothing is required. That's what we do every day. God has so beautifully wired this concept into us every day. This is the only reason we should ask, who am I? If this deep sleep was not so good, there are two conditions here. Deep sleep is so ultimate. So you wake up with a lot of energy. All your tiredness will be taken away and you are nothing but energy when you get up after 3 hours of sleep. Deep sleep is nothing but bliss. Deep sleep is something which I do not know. I can only approximately talk in past tense. God wired these two into human beings only to force us to ask, who am I? Only because of this we have to ask, this should disturb us. You say, why every day I am going through it, what is this? That we should get disturbed. This is a design thing that God has created in us. That's why all these Upanishads are saying that. So Krishna wants to give a final message. He says, Sarva Guhyatama. Here he has used Guhyatama. There he used in a comparative usage, so Guhyat, Guhyatara he said. Here he has said Guhyatama. Because there is no comparative here, so superlative degree. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha Shrunu Me Paramam Vachaha Ishtaha Asi Me Dridhamiti Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam. He says, Bhuyaha, once again. Shrunu, here. I will tell you once again. So he's not going to tell all the 685 shlokas now. In a nutshell he is going to say. So, Paramam Vachaha, that final ultimate sentence I will tell. Hear from me. Is what he says, and it is the secret of the secret, because you have to find it for you. Even after my saying, you will have to find out. That's why it is secret. Now, why am I saying it? Because me ishtaha asi, you are very close to me. Me ishtaha asi dridam. I like you so much. I have an unwavering liking for you. That's what he says. That's why I will tell you something for your hitam, not for your priyam. Hita is different. We already saw, the Sattva Sukha, Rajo Sukha, and just now we saw Arambe, Visham Antime, all that is for Sattvika. So a hitam is Sattvik Sukha. Whereas a priyam may be a Rajasik or a Tamasik Sukha. We saw 3 types of Sukha. It is hitam. It is not priyam. In this great discussion in Kathopanishad, Shreyas and Preyas. The entire discussion in Kathopanishad is on Shreyas and Preyas. Right? Shreyas is, good. Preyas is pleasant. Pleasant need not be good. Good need not be pleasant. There is no strict condition. Shreyas and Preyas are good and pleasant. By putting both of them away, it is implicitly told, good need not be always pleasant and pleasant need not be always good. So that's what it is. So he says that is what it is, that I will tell you. And why is he saying, I am telling you again, why is he saying? Because he surrendered in the 9th shloka of chapter 2 itself. That surrender that he is talking about, Arjuna did. Although he was keeping asking questions and so on, what did he say? Karpanya dosha apahrita swabhavaha. I am taken away by this kripana buddhi. I am feeling very things which I ought not to be thinking. The kripana buddhi has overtaken me. Karpanya dosha. So karpanya doshat apahrita swabhavaha prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. My mind is completely deluded with wrong understanding of dharma. It looks like it is very confused now. Because so many thoughts are wavering in me. Dharma sammuda chetas. Yat shreyaha syat nischitam bruhi. He said, Shadimam prapannam. He did prapati. He said, I surrender unto you. He did prapati. I am totally surrendering unto you. And that is why Krishna says, I like you the most. That is why he is saying it. He is saying, I like you the most because you have totally surrendered unto me. That's what you said. So let me tell it in a nutshell. That we will, I think, see it in the next class. It's 7:30. We will stop here. Next class we will wind up. We will see the Charma shlokas, and there are a few shlokas. With that we will wind up in the next class. Yeah? Yeah, so after that we will do that. So we will stop here, and I just want to say something. I'll save this before it gets misbehaves. Let me